Have you ever met one of those people who just can't be stopped? It's like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I have.
Me too.
What's their mystique?
Nothing stops these people.
Don't stop.
Welcome to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. You're about to meet some of the most amazing people.
Stop. Don't stop.
They've accomplished their goals despite insurmountable odds. They beat adversity, physical hardship, and traumatic events, and emerged triumphantly. They're people just like you and me, and they're winners. Are you unstoppable? Here's Frankie to show you how.
And welcome to Mission Unstoppable. I am your host, Frankie Picasso, and today we are going on another mission. And this one is a real beauty. We are going to be led down the garden path, literally to a world where fresh produce abounds and where you will find folks who want to help feed the hungry and are able to send them this freshness. It's so amazing. Leading the mission today is Patrick O'Neill, CEO of... I'm so sorry. I love that one. Amp, you're good. Oh, that just went right out of my head. And I was doing so well. He's a former West Point graduate, Army officer. Patrick, as I said, is now the CEO and founder of Amp You're Good, a crowd feeding rather than crowdfunding venture. He has been involved in many startups, and he sat on the board of directors for not-for-profit, for-profit, public and private companies. But as the one thing that has fueled his business adventures, it is his passion for making a difference in the lives of others. Patrick has always been involved with his community, and his volunteer activities started with his church. And he loves coaching sports and mentoring youth. And with 4 kids of his own, he has had a lot of practice, I'm sure. Amp You're Good combines Pat's passion for disruptive technology, health, and for making a difference in the lives of others. He said he already likes to do that. And because of this, he is revolutionizing not only the way food drives can be made effortless, but also the end state of health of the recipients. So after that big bungle, hello, Patrick, and welcome.
Hi, Frankie. Great to be on with you.
Yeah, it's always it's always a surprise, right, Ben? Well, I love the idea of crowd feeding. I think that's really a wonderful take on it. And folks who don't understand that term as opposed to crowdfunding, can you explain to us what it is and how you came up with it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm going to imagine that most of your listeners are familiar with what we call the traditional food drive. Somebody puts a collection box someplace, and whether it's the church food drive or the school food drive or a company that may be organizing a food drive, people would be asked to bring canned goods to that collection box. And at some point, all that food makes its way over to a food pantry or a soup kitchen. And we have developed a different way to run a food drive, which we call crowd feeding. And the way that works is that we have a website platform, and that when an organization wants to crowd feed using our website, we collect some information about the drive that they want to sponsor, and we create a web page with all the information about that drive. And when they announce the drive to their school community or company, instead of telling people where the collection box is, they direct people to the web page. And if people are inclined to donate, what they can actually do is pick out and purchase specific food items that they want to donate to the drive. And when the drive is over, we deliver all those food items to the particular food pantry or soup kitchen or shelter that drive is supporting.
Well, it certainly makes it a lot easier for people. Instead of having to schlep all those canned goods that people normally give, things that, they go in their pantry and they go, oh, I haven't used this, I haven't used that, I'll just give this away. And unfortunately, it goes to people who really don't have a choice. And so what you're doing is giving more choice.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think that you touched on a couple of things there that we think are important. The first is that the kind of food that people who are dealing with hunger here in the U.S. where we're based and in Canada where we recently expanded to is healthy food. The U.S. stats are pretty depressing. There's around 49 million people who are classified as food insecure or dealing with hunger. And that part of our population has very, very high rates of diet-related health issues, things like diabetes and obesity and whatnot. And the primary reason for that is lack of access to healthy food. And so one of the things that we're able to do with crowd feeding is that we enable people to donate fresh fruits and vegetables, let's say instead of canned goods, because that's the kind of food that people who are struggling with hunger really lack access to. And so it's a great way for somebody to help people that they're really trying to help with some of the best food that will have the most impact with them.
So you have fresh produce, but what about fresh meat? Like, are they able to get meat?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, the way that we're set up is that we can facilitate the donation of whatever the food items are that food pantries and soup kitchens and other hunger organizations need. In fact, when people go to make a donation and they have a bunch of different food items to choose from, the food items that we present as the choices are based on data that we collect from whatever hunger organization the drive is supporting, so that the donations match the need as stated by that hunger organization. We sort of operate like a wedding registry.
Sure.
And so, whether it's fruits or vegetables or meat or other items, we're basing it all on what that hunger organization is looking for to help the people that they're serving.
So are you in all of the states, or is it dependent upon who wants to use your service?
Yeah, we operate nationally and now internationally, and so in the United States we have drives that we're supporting right now, really across the country. It is based on groups that want to use our system and the organization or organizations that they want to support. So our geography is really more defined by, how people are using our system.
Okay. So I guess you have to reach out to a whole bunch of people, let them know about it first. And, traditionally you have like a fire department, used to take food over to the fire department because they always have, a place where you can drop off food in Canada anyway, or the police or, different organizations. And I know that you recently joined forces with the Postal Department.
We did, yeah. In the U.S., the largest food drive in the country is sponsored by the National Association of Letter Carriers in partnership with the U.S. Post Office. And it's a national drive that happens every year in May. And traditionally, the way that it works is there's a specific day where people are asked to put some canned goods out by their mailbox. And when the letter carrier comes by to drop the mail off, they'll pick up the food and get it to a local hunger organization. So this year, they're using our system in New York City and San Francisco to enable people to donate fruits and vegetables.
Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing.
It's really cool.
And it's got to save a lot of knees and backs, I would think.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of things that they like about, what our system can do. I think that part of it is input that they have received from hunger organizations who are looking for more fruits and vegetables. And so this is a great way for Stamp Out Hunger to include that as part of what the overall campaign raises. And I think there was a very practical part of sort of the logistics.
So I'm wondering if it'd be really interesting to see, it'd be so interesting to see if they actually double the giving this year because it's online.
Yeah, I think that we'll certainly see an increase. This is our first year working with them, and so we don't really have history to benefit from to understand, how it's all going to play out. I think that our hope and really our expectation at this point, based upon a great working relationship we've developed with the letter carriers who are really the main organizers of the campaign, is that we're looking at this year as a pilot program, and we want to learn quite a bit about how it goes. And they're expecting to roll us out nationally next year. So people will be able to donate fruits and vegetables across the country to contribute to Stamp Out Hunger. So we're pretty excited about that.
That is very exciting. I'm wondering how compassion fatigue fits into this. Obviously, you've been in talks with the post office. So in, let's say the last 3 to 5 years, have they mentioned, is there a trend for more or less giving?
Yeah, I think that I think what they've been experiencing has been a slight downward trend. I mean, the amount of food that they raise is astronomical. Last year, they collected around 71 million pounds of food. And just to put that a different way so people can understand how massive that is, that's probably about $175 million worth of food.
Wow.
Which, yeah, I mean, it ranks as among the biggest charity campaigns in the U.S. every year, if you think about it.
And that's in 3 states. Is that correct? That was in New York, San Francisco?
Actually, that's a countrywide figure.
Okay.
So,
okay.
And I don't have the breakdown by region, but and whether the slight drop in donations is due to fatigue or due to more people buying food online. You know, one of the fastest growing e-commerce areas is food, and you know, as people stop going to the supermarket to buy food and they buy it online instead, that has an impact on things like Stamp Out Hunger.
Right. Yeah. Because they don't necessarily have that food even in their pantries necessarily. People will shop week to week. They won't stock up. Yeah.
Well, and I think what they're seeing in urban areas is there's a lot of people that almost shop day by day by choice.
I'm guilty.
So well, I think we all are.
Yeah.
I think we all.
Yeah. We're gonna go to a commercial break in just about a minute. Let's give folks your address, your email, like your website and stuff, just in case they want to go check it out while we're talking. And if you're a church or a charity and you want to raise some food, you have some food insecure people in your area and you want to reach out to Patrick or his organization, this is how you can do it.
Yeah, sure. So people just want to visit www.ampyourgood.com, and that's AMPYOURGOOD.com. And we've got lots of information there. And, hopefully if people visit, they'll see some of the things that we're doing now and get in touch with us if they want to find out more about how we work.
Future's exciting. The future is very exciting. It's right at our fingertips, and I can't wait to see it all come to pass. So stay around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back with Patrick O'Neill and Amp Your Good.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life. And the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know, but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
Reaching out from the heartland of the United States with quality programming, this is TogiNet Radio.
Congratulations on being the proud owner of an adorable, soft, cuddly, sweet-smelling, smiling, cooing, hungry, tired, gassy, screaming little bundle of joy. So now what? Where's the owner's manual for this thing? Where are my instructions? Right here. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com. Infant care specialist Blythe Lipman has worked with babies for over 20 years and works extensively with new parents, providing workshops, in-home visits, tips, and daily phone calls to ease those frazzled nerves. With Baby and Toddler Instructions, you can get the advice you need on how to survive and enjoy your baby's first year. For more information on Blythe and how she can help you, go to babyinstructions.com. From 32 ways to stop a baby from crying to 14 ways to get a baby to eat and so much more. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com.
Well, I'm glad you stuck around. I'm here with Patrick O'Neill, CEO of Ampere Good. I am Frankie Picasso, your host of Mission Unstoppable. And it is Mission Unstoppable. So before we go further, let's find out how Patrick got involved with this. I love to hear people's stories about how they become unstoppable in what they do. And, obviously you are somebody who has discipline. You went to West Point. What was that like?
Well, it was a pretty intense college experience. West Point is a school. It's a military school for those who may not be familiar with it, but it's a combination of both an academic college plus a military environment that I think for me was a great place to have an opportunity to go and to have the opportunity to serve afterwards as a Army officer.
Everyone who graduates is an officer. Is that correct? You're like automatically officer.
Yeah. Upon graduating, everybody becomes a second lieutenant and serves for at least 5 years on active duty, and many serve quite a bit longer than that.
So do you have like your the same as a regular college? You would go in and you say, okay, I want to major in history or whatever.
Yeah, it's and that's a great way to think about it. It's from an academic standpoint, it's a regular credentialed university that you receive a Bachelor of Science degree or some other degree based upon what you're studying. They do have a orientation towards engineering. It was actually founded as a engineering school in the early 1800s, but I would say, most of the sort of conventional college majors in what we call STEM these days are available, and quite a few others as well.
So what was your family background like? Your siblings, father, what did your parents do?
Yeah, well, and it's pretty germane to what I'm doing today. In that my parents owned and operated a small, sort of a pub style restaurant in a rural area in New Jersey, and I have 5 brothers and sisters, wow. And so we all grew up working at the pub. In all the kinds of jobs that need to be done. And our family restaurant really doubled as the informal soup kitchen for our community. Oh. And that was sort of my first connection to hunger as a cause, because my parents would often make meals for people who were struggling with tough times for one reason or another. And their kids, including me, would help them make those meals in the restaurant's kitchen. And most of the time we delivered those meals to people. Sometimes they swung by and picked them up. And outside of being aware that people wind up in circumstances where they need this kind of help, right. The other thing my parents were really insistent upon was that when you're helping somebody that way, you should provide them the same food that you would eat yourself. In other words, good food, and that and the right way to help somebody is to help them in the right way. Love
that.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple lesson, but it's something that really stuck with me, and I can tie that pretty directly to what we're doing at Ampere Good. Because
I can see that. I can just see that. The little
it's
bridge.
Really. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened between those 2 points. But
you were quite the entrepreneur. You were already starting businesses while you were in college. And where did that come from, that entrepreneurial spirit?
I think it came right from my parents. I don't think that they ever thought of themselves as entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs in these times is, a familiar term to most people. I think they just thought of themselves as you know what, we're going to make our living in a restaurant kind of business, and we're going to kind of raise our family around that. And if anything, I think they probably just thought of themselves as small business owners or
now. Were they
owners.
immigrants, or have they been here? Your family been here for a while?
They had been here for a while. I think they were just very attracted to and willing to take the risks of owning and operating a small business. And like many entrepreneurial experiences, or many, what many small businesses face along the way is, they had many challenges. They owned and operated this business for about 35 years.
Wow.
And, in those 35, and that's tough for a restaurant. I mean, anybody who's in the restaurant business knows it's not a easy business to be in.
God bless your mother with her 5 kids running a restaurant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that's really true.
I know. What's the pecking order? Where are you?
Well, I'm the oldest. So they had 3 boys in a row and then 3 girls in a row. And but I think that working in a small business environment and just learning from my parents how you sort of think about how to manage that, how you problem solve. I think that really kind of pointed me in the direction of doing something similar, not the same kind of business, but the idea that, you could work hard, take some risks, and always be problem solving. And
you have to be pretty good at management when you run a restaurant. There's a lot of food waste in restaurants. And unless you're very careful and really understand your clientele and how to order, there's a lot of food that goes in the garbage that probably doesn't need to. But that food doesn't go to feed homeless people. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think
I'm sure you've thought about it.
Well, I think these days there's, growing awareness and emphasis on thinking about food waste as an overall issue. I have to say, though, growing up as I did, and this is, a restaurant business that my parents bought in the 1960s and operated in the 70s and 80s into the 90s. I would say that by today's standards, my parents' operation had very little waste. And a lot of that was just driven by economics of, how you make a go at business. I think so my wife and I have 4 children, and there's a lot of different restaurants that we might go to where the amount of food that's put on the plate is not something barely anybody can finish.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Well, it is, and there's lots of things sort of associated with that. But what I would say is that my brothers and sisters and I grew up with the mantra belonging to the Clean Plate Club was something that was important. So that meant that you ate everything that was on your plate. And, and the plates that we ate our meals from were never overfull like you see in many restaurants.
Right.
So my parents were very thrifty, and I think in their experience, they were probably pretty good by today's standard of food waste. Unfortunately, that's
I really hate that. Everybody who dines with me knows I'm never going to finish what's on my plate, especially at a restaurant. I mean, at home, I can fill it because I know how much I eat. But when you go out, I always cut it in half anyway because I don't like to feel full. I've never eat till I'm full, and it's just uncomfortable. And my husband always goes, "Well, what else am I going to eat?" Because when you order, I know I'm going to eat half of that. And then he stopped doing that because he started to gain weight. But I brought home leftover. Honest to God, now I've got a bunch of boys, and I brought home food from a restaurant, and 3 of my kids ate my leftovers, and we're okay, and we're satisfied. That is pure gluttony. Like, we do not need to eat that much food. That food could go and feed a whole bunch of other people. And I just hate to see it thrown out, as do you. So it's very unfortunate that people, we'll go to that restaurant because they give you a lot on your plate for your money. You don't need to have a lot on your plate for your money. We need to get rid of that mentality, that image.
Well, I think it'll take a while to move off of that mentality, but I one thing that I always think about in relationship to that is, there was a time when it was kind of normal that when you, let's say, were having you just bought some food at whether it was a fast food place or someplace else, that you would throw the wrappers out the window because you wouldn't want to dirty up your car. And, through a pretty broad, public awareness campaign here in the States, polluting like that became something that people recognized they shouldn't do. And so our highways and byways became cleaner as a result. But that required a lot of time and effort to. And
fines.
and fines. Yes. No, that's right.
Yeah.
But I think, I think restaurants and other eateries serve sort of extra food because consumers, they perceive that consumers kind of expect that.
Right.
Even if they know that, restaurants know how much food comes back on the plates when they come back to the kitchen. So they know they're over-serving, but I guess they feel like they would, lose some of the business if they started serving smaller portions.
There's a trend here now, especially in some of the Asian, Japanese restaurants that are kind of buffet style, where you order at your table, like from an iPad, that if you order too much and you don't eat it, you have to pay for that food. So you're paying per, dim sum, or paying per, spring roll or whatever. But if you order too many, you're paying extra money. So it kind of stops that idea that I'm just going to order what I can eat, and then if I want more, I can order more. And stop that trend to waste, which is, I think, a good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I think that there's a lot of different sort of little things that can be done to influence how people think about that. That's to me, that's a very direct way and something that is pretty easily understood. I think I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and they were telling me about a restaurant. I can't think of their name, but they started using smaller plates. Not a lot smaller, but just a little smaller, so the less food still looked like a full plate, and people still weren't finishing what they ate, but it was less food than they used to serve.
Well, I like that idea, and I've done that before. I've served dinner on dessert plates. And you know what? It's enough food. It's enough food. Our eyes are very deceiving. But we're about to go to another commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the state of your health and the food that you eat, and why it's so important that Patrick came up with this idea, Amp Your Good, so that people can get fresh food. It's so exciting. Stick around. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Don't stop.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
It's words you never heard.
Most of us use computers and smart devices on a daily basis without giving much thought to the history behind the technology. The first website ever created was dedicated to information about the World Wide Web and went live on August 6, 1991. The first instant message was sent by Ted Leonsis to his wife via American Online in January 1993. It read, "Don't be scared. It is me. Love you and miss you." He later became AOL's vice chairman. The first sentence uttered on Skype was in Estonia in April 2003. As an avid internet spelunker, someone who constantly searches the web but never finds what they're looking for, the internet usually just gives me a case of trichotillomania. That's the irresistible urge to pull one's hair out.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Okay, are you ready to amp up your good? Because I am. I love to order things online, and it just makes it so much easier for me to give when I can give online. And I love the idea of being able to give healthy fruits and vegetables to people. You know, there's a trend to in young people especially, to veganism. There's a trend to just watching your health and having a protein and some vegetables for your meals, and away you go, the paleo style way of eating. And this, is good for those kinds of folks who want to eat that way. Not everybody wants to have boxed macaroni and cheese and bread. Like that's, just a horrible mangia cake way of eating, as they would put it. So what do you think, Patrick? I know that we're in the same boat on this.
Oh, yeah. And it's really, another part of what got us thinking about all this is what I mentioned before, sort of the health issues that people who are struggling with hunger have. And, when you really look at the practical reality of the daily lives of people who are in those circumstances, particularly in urban areas and in very rural areas, this lack of access to healthy food really reduces down to some very tough and practical issues. I had a great discussion with a former pro athlete a few months ago who grew up in an urban area that is a tough area, and now he's back in his hometown, actually in Paterson, New Jersey, doing youth mentoring, youth coaching. And what he was saying to me was that, if you live in a town like that, you might be very aware that it's important to eat healthier food, but you might have to take a 25 or 30-minute car ride to get from where you live to get to a supermarket where you can actually buy healthier food.
Right.
And so if you have a car and if you have the money to spend on that food, you are still spending, kind of an hour just to and from, compared to what a lot of people are used to, either walking right down the street or maybe a quick 5-minute car ride to the store that they shop at to get those things. And so for many people in these circumstances, it's not that they lack awareness that this is important for them to include fruits and vegetables in their diet. It's just that the practical reality makes it very hard for them to accomplish that.
And I think there's a trend around the country, though. Different areas have different thematically they eat in a certain way. I was watching the Food Network the other day, and it really ticked me off. There's a cook on the Food Network, and she lives in upper New York State, and yes, she makes farm fresh food, but you know what? All of it was fried, even her vegetables. I'm like, why are you frying your vegetables? Like everything was fried in butter or oil or nothing. All of these beautiful farm fresh ingredients didn't have a place to shine because they were all heavily laden in, gook. So it's some people don't even know how to cook healthy or make healthy food. And some children have never even had fruit. They've never even been, it sounds crazy, I know, but I've seen it for real, that they've never been exposed because their parents don't buy it. And so maybe sometimes because I know that we only have one Whole Foods here where I live, just outside of Toronto, in this area. But they come with, people who teach you how to cook. And I don't know, it'd be great if some of these organizations who are going to be buying food from you could, show up with somebody who could teach them how to make some healthy food, because I think it will take an introduction.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's a great point. It's one thing to know conceptually that you should eat fruits and vegetables, and of course there are certain kinds of fruits and vegetables that don't require too much instruction to know what to do with them. So most people understand that you bite into an apple or you peel a banana, that kind of thing.
Right.
But certainly, I would say particularly with vegetables, there's many vegetables that will be sort of more attractive to eat if they're properly prepared. And and if you've never if you've never done much cooking at all, or if you've never really worked with vegetables, you might not appreciate how much better tasting a sweet potato can be, or how to cook kale. And maybe mixed in with some other ingredients. What we're seeing, though, is that there are an increasing number of hunger organizations that are getting into the work of educating people on how to prepare healthy meals.
That's awesome.
Which is great. And part of it is that there's sort of a chicken or egg question, because, food pantries for, decades and decades and decades have been in the business of distributing canned goods. And that's in part been because food drives have only produced canned goods as the kind of food that people are able to donate to them. So, if you're a food pantry, to start to think about educating people how to prepare fresh vegetables is a nice idea. But if you don't have any fresh vegetables to distribute, kind of what's the point?
Right.
On the other hand, if you have fresh vegetables, and you know that you're going to have a steady supply of those, then you can start to think about investing in, education, because the people that you're helping are going to actually have these things to work with.
Now, I know that you source food and you shop across the board and you try to find the best prices. But here's something I want to make mention of, because I know that Jordan Figueredo, who is the king of the ugly fruits and vegetables. And,
sure.
He told us that like 40% of fruits and vegetables are thrown out of the store because they don't look pretty. There's nothing wrong with them. They taste great. They're still okay. They just look a little weird. So it's possible that these fruits and vegetables will show up because they're cheaper in these food pantries. But it's not an insult. I don't want people to be insulted by it, because it's good food. It's food that every one of us can eat and should eat. It's just not always put out there for us to eat.
Yeah, that's true. I think that the ugly fruits and vegetables, you can really almost call it a movement. I mean, Jordan's done fantastic work in creating awareness of that issue, and has done some great lobbying to get stores to think about carrying that. Because you're right, an apple that's perfectly round, from a nutrition standpoint, from a taste standpoint, is no better than the apple that's not perfectly round.
Right.
But the one that's not perfectly round is less expensive.
Right.
And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But I think people are getting educated that misshapen fruits and vegetables are just as good as the ones that look more pleasing to the eye. Well,
you hope so. I just don't want people to think, oh, geez, we're going to send them the ugly fruit because the good people don't want to eat it, which isn't necessarily, well, it might be true, but it's still nutritionally sound. And if the buck goes a little bit farther and you can feed a few more people, why not?
Yeah, what we're seeing, we've been sort of testing out that idea, because most of the fruits and vegetables that people can donate through our site are the same that they would buy at the supermarket. So they're sort of, they pass that aesthetic quality test.
Okay.
We also, though, have been testing out, what we're calling ugly fruits and vegetables, because you can buy more with your dollar. And so the idea that you could send more fruits and vegetables for whatever it is that you want to spend is definitely attractive to people. But we provide both options, and
right.
And I think that on the receiving end, I think people are happy to get nutritious food. So
yes.
we that's the feedback that we've gotten.
And they can always, make stews and stuff with that stuff that doesn't look as pretty, possibly, Yeah,
they can. I mean, I think particularly I think that on the vegetable side, a lot of vegetables are used, you do some preparation work with them anyway. And so whether it's a big carrot that's not perfect looking, but you're cutting up into carrot sticks, or an onion or a tomato that you're going to cut up and put into a salad, the fact that it's not perfectly round doesn't really make much of a difference when it goes into a salad, because you're not putting it into the salad as one big tomato or onion anyway.
I'm curious, did you do any studies as far as how many homes have computers? I know that in Canada, I think that we have more computers per capita than any other country in the world. That's what I was told. So, how different states going around the country, do you know who is online, and will that affect giving?
Yeah, I think that I don't know what the stats are for PCs, but I think that at this point, between desktops and laptops and tablets and smartphones, there's very few people that don't have access online. And I think that the stats about online giving are pretty interesting in that online giving probably for the past 5 or 6 years, whether that's donating money or let's say donating food, through a site like ours, has had really significant double-digit growth year over year for a long time. It still is a fairly small percentage of overall giving, but that's going to the rate of online giving is growing so fast that's going to flip around in the not too distant future.
So we have a Amp Your Good app we can download to our phones right now?
Well, actually, so we have a website that's mobile responsive. So we don't actually have an app that people can download. But if they just, if they want to check us out on their phone and go to www.ampyourgood.com, the site appears quite nicely. We also have what we call microsites. We have one actually set up for the Stamp Out Hunger campaign. That site is Stamp Your Good rather than ampyourgood.com. And we've gotten a lot of nice feedback about how that site looks.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful site, actually. Really, really nice. We're going to go to a break again shortly, but we will come back with Patrick and Amp Your Good and Stamp Your Good, and we'll talk about how they have infiltrated Canada into Feed Alberta. And we'll also talk about your nonprofit partners before we go. We're going to do all of that in just a few minutes. But first, we do have to pay some bills. So we want you to stick around and make sure you come back. Because if you know any food insecure folks in your neighborhood, as I said, go to your church, go to any organization, the business where you work, and say, hey, let's call Amp Your Good and see if we can't put a food drive on for those people. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life. And the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know, but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and The Book Shepherd, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
According to Fitness Magazine, the majority of us are getting enough protein. Most nutritionists agree that active women need about 0.5 gram per pound a day, or approximately 65 grams for a 130-pound woman. The USDA reports that most of us, even vegetarians, are eating 69 grams of protein daily, so we are good. If you are as active as recommended and exercise for more than an hour, 5 or more days a week, you should increase your protein intake to 0.75 grams per pound. Eating protein within 30 to 45 minutes after you work out rebuilds and repairs the micro tears in muscle tissue that occurs when you exercise. Taking in protein right after you work out will make you feel less sore the next day and increases your lean muscle mass. I'm Annette Hammond.
I just caught the tail end of that commercial as we're coming back, and it gave me something to ask you, because something that I do every morning is I have a protein smoothie. So can we buy protein? Like for a smoothie?
We sure can.
On your site now?
Yeah, we've had a bunch of different food pantries, mostly, that have been looking for people to donate protein-based food, because that's an important part of the mix of things that they want to distribute. Sure. And that can be, sort of your typical, your peanut butter, tuna fish, those kinds of things. And actually, we're in discussions with a group that wants to do a smoothie drive. So there's a few details we have to work out on that, but we think that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, because I really like having, a protein drink in the morning, and I have, a really wonderful whey protein that I drink, but it's got 27 grams of protein, and I throw in, half a frozen banana and some cherries and some pineapple or whatever, and some Greek yogurt, and boom, away you go. And it's great, and it keeps you for a really long time. And I think it's pretty healthy, and that would be good for some folks rather than cereal.
I think that's good for anybody. But, I think in terms of the kinds of people that we're trying to help, that's a great kind of a meal for them. And, it just gets back to.
And it's portable.
Well, it's very portable. And, just gets back to the idea of, providing them with opportunities to eat or consume healthier food.
That's right. So who are some of your partners, your nonprofit partners?
Yeah, well, we're very fortunate to have some terrific organizations that are all interested in one way or another with helping those who are struggling with hunger, or they're very interested in the health diet connection, or changes in the food system that would benefit everybody, including those who are food insecure. Those would include an organization called Wholesome Wave, another one called Why Hunger, Food Tank. Now, these are all U.S.-based nonprofit organizations that are in some cases working nationally within the U.S., and in other cases they have an international footprint. And I think it's just a natural sort of alignment with what we're doing and the mission or missions, I should say, of these organizations.
So what's I'm going to say, I don't want to say hinders, but what are the obstacles to your growth, to growing into other countries and different places?
I think so far it's just really been creating awareness of what our crowd feeding system does. Once people hear about it and they sort of get their arms around what we've done with our way of doing food drives, they really like it. I didn't mention earlier that groups are able to use our platform to run their food drives. It doesn't cost them anything, so it's a free service. And so we're a fairly young company. We're less than 2 years old, but we've gone from working primarily with, I would say, local or smaller organizations doing sort of smaller scale food drives to now working with, some of the biggest food drives literally in the world. And Stamp Out Hunger, of course, is the biggest one. But we are now in Canada by virtue of a great partnership that we've struck with an organization called the Alberta Food Bank Association. And they're one of the major Canadian hunger organizations that is really dealing with the economic downturn that's affected the province of Alberta by virtue of what's happened in the oil and gas industry. And, the number of people who are needing help in the Alberta province have just grown astronomically over a very short period of time. And so the Alberta Food Bank Association is using our crowd feeding platform on a drive that's simply called Feed Alberta. That'll begin in a few weeks and run from essentially the middle of May until the middle of June, where they're looking to raise a pretty massive quantity of fruits and vegetables to supply a lot of the hunger organizations that are, helping people throughout the province. Are
you able to buy direct from the farmer? Can you help the farmer?
Well, we yes, in fact, we essentially help the farmer in a couple of ways. We are most often buying our food from wholesalers, and we emphasize with our wholesalers opportunities where they can identify for us that they're locally sourcing whatever the produce is that we're buying from them, and one of our suppliers actually has a specific local sourcing program, so we know that we're able to help local farmers in the areas that we're delivering food to local hunger organizations. Mm-hmm. We actually have a drive that just started this week down in North Carolina, where it's a drive called a Berry Fine Food Drive to raise strawberries and then some other fresh produce items. And we're sourcing the strawberries from a very specific farm in that part of North Carolina. And what's pretty cool is that people who are motivated to help people who are struggling with hunger, many of them like the idea that they can support local farmers at the same time.
I love that idea. That's what made me think of with Alberta, because right next door you've got BC, and in the Okanagan Valley, like they've got like the best fruits and vegetables in Canada, really. I mean, next to the Niagara Peninsula here. So it'd be great to be able to I like to buy from farmers. I go there myself. I prefer that to a supermarket. So that's pretty fun. I like that a lot.
Well, and it's actually part of where our name comes from. So, AMP is short for amplify. And so we think a lot about how can we amplify somebody's good intention. And one of the ways we can do that is that if you can, donate something, but have more than one cause that you're supporting that you care about. And so locally sourced food, you're obviously supporting somebody who is struggling with hunger, with healthier food, but you're also supporting a local farm, or maybe you're helping to reduce food waste. And we think that if people feel like they can get a couple of things done, a couple of good things done, that will motivate them to help out more. I
agree. I think that it's really important. I was just on your Facebook site before the show, and I was reading an article where it sounds like there's going to be 1 million people affected when the food stamps stop, which they're about to do. I don't think we have that here in Canada, but they do have food stamps in the U.S. And I know I remember being in high school and having some friends whose families use food stamps, and so it's been around. That program's been around for a very long time. And I don't really know how it works or how much you get off, but 1 million people being affected is going to be a lot of people who are going to need food. And I don't know if those were people who helped other people with it, but that sounds like, an enormous figure.
It really is. I mean, first of all, you've got somewhere in the 49 million person range here in the U.S. of people who are benefiting from food stamps, or it's called the SNAP program here in the United States now. They sort of changed its name, but and I would say that quite a few people who get that government benefit to help them are still at some point in the course of a month, because SNAP benefits are given out once a month. Okay. They still wind up going to a hunger organization to sort of get through the rest of the month after those benefits run out. And, all of the hunger organizations here in the States know that with these 1 million people getting dropped from that benefit, that they're going to see a lot more people. And, they're all working hard to create awareness that the number of people that they're going to be serving is going to be growing as a result of that.
Okay, I got a challenge. If few folks who are in the food industry, you work for a big store or whatever, let's do a couple weeks or a month where we buy something online and then you match it. And so every time I buy this, you send that over to the local food bank. That would be great. I love that.
It's a great idea. We actually have a matching program where we make it easy for companies to match donations as a way to encourage people to donate. And certainly the need in these months and unfortunately years ahead is going to continue with us. You mentioned donor fatigue before. Happily, hunger in the U.S., and I think this is probably true in Canada as well, it's actually the most universally supported cause. The sad news is that so many people need help in this way. But the good news is that so many people want to help out. And, part of our job with what we're doing is to make it really super easy to help out. We save the trip to the store, or we save the trip from grabbing something from your pantry to bring it to a collection box someplace. And we make it easy to understand that you're actually donating exactly the right kind of food to support that hunger organization you want to help out.
And can I have a standing order? Can you make it that easy for me that I say, okay, every month I'm going to donate this, this, and this, and here's the dollars?
Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, we don't have that set up right now, but that's something we'll be introducing later on this year, where, if you want to send a bag of apples to, the hunger organization you like to support once a month or once every other month, you'll be able to do that.
And can we send, I'm just thinking of shelter, like women's shelters, women who leave. Can we just kind of have an angel organization that sends stuff out, even though they haven't asked for it?
Well, yeah, we just need to know that we have a sort of the right place to deliver the right food according to what the need is.
All right. That's fun. Okay. I like this, Patrick. This is a great idea. I think it's really simple and easy, and I think a lot of folks will enjoy shopping online and sending fresh food to folks who they know will need it. I mean, obesity is so rampant in the United States, and it's not by anyone's fault. It's not their fault. I mean, if you have to buy food at a food bank and you're getting bread and pasta and all kinds of crappy stuff, all the time, and that's all you get, well, if you're hungry, that's what you're going to eat. We have 1 minute left, and I'm going to give that minute to you. What would you like to say?
Well, I think I'd like to share with your listening audience that whether you're associated with a company or a civic organization or a team, a school, we work with all kinds of groups that want to run food drives. We work with groups that have a history of running traditional food drives and groups that have never run a food drive before, but because we make it so easy to do, it's pretty easy for them to decide to support hunger in this way. I'm going to stop you. We got
15 seconds. So www.ampyourgood.com. You've been listening to the CEO, Patrick O'Neill, the last hour. And thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure having you here, and I just love your mission.
Well, thanks, Frankie. Really appreciate it.
When the chips were down, they didn't stop. Stories of people who, when the odds were against them, turned defeat into victory. You've been listening to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. See you next time, and always remember,
Don't stop.